Well, welcome to Integrated Health of Indiana's Talk at 10. And today we're going to talk about ulcerative colitis and Crohn's, which are two really common inflammatory bowel diseases. And these are really easy to start to take care of from the functional medicine aspect. Now, the problem is if you go to Dr. Google, medically, we can't cure it because they don't have a drug that can take care of the autoimmune diseases. They have a very hard time taking care of, repairing the colon and the SIG-A and stuff. And that's just not the model that takes care of this. You have to do a lot of repair work. And so, what has been your experience with that in the hospital and stuff? What do people suffer from with either or both? Because they kind of overlap, don't they? Quite a bit.
Yeah, pain. They come in and they get antibiotics, hydrate antibiotics, and no eating.
so it's the so some of the symptoms of Crohn's and ulcerative colitis are bloody stools, abdominal cramping, weight loss, of course, constipation, and bouts of diarrhea going back and forth. These are all things that you can take care of very easily, but you do have to do some work. And just to show you some things, when we look at Crohn's and ulcerative colitis are two factors that really lead into all of these autoimmune diseases. So when we look at these autoimmune diseases coming in, we know that there is a factor of it that is related to the gut. So we know part of it is due to the gut. And if you look at that, what it says is 30% of autoimmune risk is genetic. So everybody that says, "Oh, I have diabetes because my dad had it, and my grandparents had it, or my mom's got lupus, or whatever," there's only a 30% chance that that's going to happen. 70% of this is environmental, and you can also read environmental as lifestyle, because those are where the triggers come from. And so we really, really have to pay attention to the triggers. And that's part of the process of discovery. So when we're going through these things, we want to sit down with you. Good morning, Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
We want to sit down with you and figure out what the triggers are. Because if the gut isn't doing well, then what happens to us is the 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 wheels fall off the wagon. Um, Hippocrates, and I don't remember if it's Hippocrates or the Orientals, but they all say death begins in the gut. And I want to show you something. If we look at Crohn's disease or celiac disease, which is part of Crohn's, celiac is a little more severe than Crohn's, but it's still an inflammatory bowel disease, and this is the autoimmune component of it. And if you look at our incidence of using glyphosate, so these yellow bars right here, the glyphosate usage, as we see those go up, look at the celiac incidence. It follows right in line. So sorry, celiac incidence, this is the glyphosate line. My bad. Glyphosate line, celiac incidence. So the more we use glyphosate, the more we see celiac disease happening. And so there is a correlation here with this. And if you go, well, I don't use glyphosate. I don't use glyphosate on my plants. I don't use it on my yard. Roundup, think Roundup. You can say that, but in our industrial food system, we use it on everything. And so if you look at this, in Honey Nut Cheerios, there is more glyphosate than vitamin D and B12, and we add that in. So you may not think that you're getting exposure outside, but you are getting exposure through enriched white flour. That's where it comes from. This little graphic is from the Environmental Working Group, so if you want to go check that out, that's where you can go. But then if we come back to here and we look at these oatmeal squares, which are supposedly whole grain, heart healthy, and all of that stuff. Once again, this graphic is from the Environmental Working Group. Look at how much glyphosate is in that. 2.7 parts per million. Doesn't mean a lot to you, but the glyphosate in Cheerios was 0.86. This is a lot more. And why is that? Because it's made with enriched white flour. And now think about this. If you have enriched white flour in your cereal, what else do they make enriched white flour? What else do they make? Let me just ask you, what else do they make with enriched white flour?
Everything. Bread.
Bread.
Crackers. Everything we eat has something in it.
Read your ingredients. So you are microdosing with this antibiotic. That's a lot of hangers. You're microdosing with this antibiotic all the time. And that's why you have to change things. And one of our biggest challenges that we have is everybody is like, oh, I can't eat on this diet, or I can't change my lifestyle. What am I going to eat? What am I going to do? And so at Integrated Health of Indiana, what we do is we go through a 5R program. We remove toxins, irritants, foods that inflame. So we have to identify these. And that's what we do first. First, we go to identify. Once we identify, then we start to remove those foods, and then we start to replace those foods with good things, because we know cutting stuff out doesn't work well. So we don't look to cut it out. We look to replace it. We look to substitute. So instead of replace, also think substitute. Then we want to go into the reinoculation. So we want to start to bring in good pre and probiotics, because we want to crowd out the things that are there that are bad. And then we got to repair the gut. So the gut has to be repaired. You have to make sure that your Sig-A is intact, because if your Sig-A isn't intact, then you're not going to keep the gut healed and whole. And then you have to make sure that you're eating to rebalance everything. And what does that eating look like? Well, that eating looks like this. Lots of colors, lots of different vegetables. Those are potatoes. And, people are like, oh, I can't eat potatoes. You have to remember, potatoes have good starch in them. The problem is we want to eat potatoes every meal, and we want to fry them, and we want to make sure that they are, drenched in ketchup. So it's not the potato that's bad. It's how we prepare the potato. Mild pork sausage. Here's a lasagna, but rather than using pasta noodles, we used cabbage leaves, and you can't tell the difference. And here is where we did the filling for some peppers up here. And so these things are the things that you do to rebalance this. It takes fiber, and it takes colors, and it takes variety. And Jess, you do most of the cooking. How hard is that?
It's not hard. We have fun.
And it just doesn't come out of boxes and cans.
No, we go to the farmer's market.
And what else? I mean, how do we incorporate that into our lives so that it's just a part of our everyday life?
Our food?
Yeah.
Oh, we just start out in the morning and we take our stuff with us and we set out what we want and we prep it and finish it later. Stick it in the Instapot. Cooks while we're working.
And it's not hard.
No, and it's so good for you.
And so other things that we can use that we can eat. I mean, blueberries are fabulous for the microbiome and creating health and helping with sugar issues.
Helps with Alzheimer's too.
Yep. Green tea, the EGCG, helps with Alzheimer's, helps with dementia, helps with inflammation.
Actually helps with nerve pain. So study on green tea was it was just as effective as Neurontin in some cases for some people.
And it doesn't have side effects of Neurontin.
Mm-mm.
So there are things that are in nature that give us everything we need to heal. Your omega-3s from salmon, your sulfurs from your cruciferous vegetables. Pomegranates really help the gut. This is a gut food. It feeds a bug in us called Akkermansia, mucinophilia, and it helps bring it back. Your leafy greens, folate, with everybody that's worried about COVID, and now we have people that are worried about the injections, changing the DNA and the RNA and all of that stuff. We have all of those things happening. Well, folate is what helps with that genetic repair. Think about, for you women out there, what is the one thing they wanted you guys to make sure you had for the development of the baby? They want you to have lots of folate, folic acid. Olive oil is a monounsaturated fat, and this is extremely healthy for hormones and for very true. I'll put that. That is very true. And we don't want to be disciplined. We want it to be easy, and we want it to just happen for us. And when we let that stuff go that way, it gets to us.
First step's always the hardest.
Yep. And then you have avocados with fiber and fat. And then you have almonds and cashews. They're another source of fat and fiber. And then seaweed. Seaweed is a good source of iodine and helps with the body.
It's so good for your thyroid.
Yep. So these are the things that we look at, and that's what we do every day at Integrated Health of Indiana. And so we want to help you heal from the inside out. And if you're changing your diet and you're doing everything that you think you should be doing, well, there's always more that can be done, and we have to go in and we have to start to balance hormones, balance adrenals. There are some of us who, like myself, who for 40 years didn't pay any attention to my health and didn't pay any attention to what I ate and drank, and just thought it was going to be okay until it wasn't. And then it's a lot harder to bring it back than it is to get it to keep. Our dog is saying, hey, we want to go. It wants to go outside, evidently. But those are the things we have to think about. So make sure you subscribe to the Integrated Health of Indiana's YouTube page and start to go through that education so you can lay a foundation. And then if you need us, then we start to make it happen. And that's where we go through that identifying stage. And Miss Jess gets to draw your blood.
Yeah.
Because you don't want me doing it. And with that being said, I will leave you with our website. Actually, I need to do the other one. That one's going to go away eventually. So I will leave you with this, and any questions that you have, feel free to drop us a line. Our emails are there. You can call us. We are here to help because we do want to help you heal from the inside out. And there's no reason to suffer from these inflammatory diseases when you don't have to. Have a good day.